Ravin sir, please.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. We're going to have a small session on ISA awareness. I've just brought in slides from OAAA, and we will try to focus on our main part, which is what we are doing in ISA. Nothing new, but it's just a refresher. We will see how we can delegate this session. We will have what is ISA, and we'll have a couple of slides on ADRI, and then we will see how we can meet these standards of ISA through our work that we are doing every day. So let's start on with the session. We will be going through the Institutional Standards Assessment Manual, a couple of things, and then we will have the purpose of ISA, different stages of ISA, what are the features, then how do we rate, or how we are being rated rather, and then how we can reach to that particular stage of accreditation. Now, if you see, these are the key stages of accreditation. This is nothing new, the old one. We have a couple of stages like this, wherein you will have the HEI is undertaking a self-study. That is where we are doing now. Then we are not yet formed the panel for this. We were due in November, but I think probably it may delay further, looks like. So after the OAAA forms a panel, HEI submits, that is ICT submits its ISR document. Then there will be a preliminary ISR meeting wherein they will set the tone for how they are going to come and assess us. Then there will be a OAAA board will consider our draft. So that means there is not going to be one version that we are going to submit. There are going to be versions and versions. So we will be somewhere on the version 5. Our draft report of the ISA application will be accepted. And then the ISA will start the planning visit. When they are going to come, how they are going to come, what is supposed to be done and everything. And then the panel reviews all, after visiting, the panel reviews the comments, and then the OAAA approves the final report, and then we get the final report, whether we are in due course, whether we are accredited or not. Now, as such, just refreshing, we have 9 standards. How many standards we are using is 8, if I'm right. And then we have 79 criteria to take care. These are some of just notices that I could feel. Number of criteria. So we need to be aware how many criteria we need to be in each standard. So total of 79 criteria. In each standard there are different levels of criteria available. Then there are indicators in each criteria, which is the minimum requirement that we need to arrive at to get a particular criteria should to be passed. Then we'll move on. These are the 9 domains that we are working on, or 9 standards. Of course, you know, it's governance and management, student learning by coursework programs, student learning by research programs, research and consultancy, industry and industry community engagement, academic support services, students and student support services, staff and staff support services, general support service, and facilities. These are the 9 domains, out of which we will not be working on the 3rd domain because we are not at a research institution. Now, the 9 standards represent the maximum requirement. No, it's false, because these are the minimum requirements that you need to set in. HEI can go ahead and say, I am going to do more. It's the minimum level set by a standard. All the institutional standards and criteria are applicable to all HEI. Need not be. It depends on what the HEI is or want to achieve. Some applicable standards and criteria are more important than value. It is totally false. That is a criteria which is, or a standard which is 2, which we are more due in, is given the same importance as 9 or maybe 5 or research which is 4. There is no special indication that this particular standard or this criteria, if we are doing above 100, we may be able to achieve the accreditation. It's nothing like that. Everything is equally accredited. The standards reflect national protocols and guidelines. Yes, we are following all the national protocols and set by the Oman board. Now we will be assessed on criteria, then there will be standards, and then the final accreditation. So the criteria outcomes are with ratings, which is 0 to 4, and the ratings of 2, 3, and 4 are met. 1 means we are partially meeting that particular criteria I'm talking about, and 0 means we are not at all meeting. And these criteria lead to standard when you have 4 categories. When you are meeting, then there is the rating of excellent, good, and satisfactory. When you are not meeting, it's unsatisfactory. And these criteria and standards lead to accreditation. So where we have 5, we can either be accredited with distinction, with 1 or more standard, or we can be accredited only, or we could be conditionally accredited, or we could be on probation, or we may not be accredited. So these are the main things that result oriented one, based on criteria, based on standard, and based on accreditation. So all boils down to criteria. Now, if all standards related are at least satisfactory, so we mean that if it is satisfactory, so that is met, then we may be accredited with distinction. Okay, any standard which is excellent is recognized with it be a distinction. Then all the standards, if we are able to meet minimum of satisfactory, then we will be accredited. All the standards. So we will see how we are going to achieve this standards through the criteria. Now, this is where the other 3, which are very, 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 very important. So even if 1 or 2 standard are rated unsatisfactory, we will have to be conditionally accredited, which is going to be, again, we need to work on those standards again. So 3 or more standards are rated unsatisfactory, we will be on probation for a year, wherein the accreditation process comes back again after 1 year to assess us. So the same process is going to go. The last one is very dangerous. Hope we are not there. 1 or more standards are rated unsatisfactory, we may not be accredited. Same thing. All applicable national standards. So that is accreditation. All applicable national standards. So you are accredited. Does not meet 1 or 2 applicable, then we are conditionally accredited. 3 or more on probation, and then if we don't meet the national standards above that, we are not accredited. Now let me focus on something which are the key components involved in our ISA documentation. The first one is the ISA self-assessment. Now, as you are aware that we are in stage 2, which is the institutional accreditation process. This is the build-up on the institutional quality audit, which took place in the year 2010. So we are building up. So all those recommendations, affirmations, and commendations of the IQA, the institutional quality audit that went through 2010, must be addressed. There should be a mechanism, there should be a process, whatever. If it was commended, we should have a sustainable thing now. That means it should have been continued now, and we should find innovative methods to improve it. If it is under affirmation, that means we need to work on. So we are partially there. We were partially there. We need to build it up and make sure that we reach the goal. If it's a recommendation, that means there was nothing. So we should have started something on that, and we should have achieved, because over the period of now 9 years after the IQA, so we should be in a position to tell, and that too we are actually having 2 strategic plans. So we should have achieved it. We will see how we have achieved it. Self-assessment is basically based on identification and analysis of evidence. The base is evidence. So that means evidence comes from the staff, basically, or your work, any work that you're doing. If we are able to document it, then our self-assessment exercise goes through properly. Everything is documentation. So we need to have your evidences ready at anything, any document, anything, any work you do. So that means the staff forms the basis of ISAM or any assessment or any documentation process. So as a staff, maybe there are a lot of talks going on why should be the staff involved in the accreditation process. But every staff is basically involved because every work you do, you need to document. And that documentation goes through the process. Why we are struggling so much at times to get the evidences is because we at times in course of work we fail to keep the evidences ready or we don't document it. That's the only thing. But if you are able, most of our processes in ICT are excellent. But when we were writing the criteria, the basic problem where it came from is the lack of evidences. And certain times the evidences were not standardized. Some departments did have evidences. Some department didn't have evidences. Some department had a certain format. The other departments didn't have certain formats. So basically when we were writing, we were not able to get what we wanted to write in terms of evidences at certain standards, but not necessarily all the standards and criteria, certain standards. I know now we are in the right track. The departments are working hard to set the people who are involved in the evidence collection rather are making a standardized versions of documents and models and everything. So really appreciate the work done. Now, self-assessment requires time and resources. Now, this is very important again. So we are now actually, after IQA, we are 9 years down the line. So it's a lot of time and a lot of resources were involved. So we should be in a better position by this time now. It allows, what is self-assessment? It requires the OFIs, that is the opportunities for improvement in relation to a particular criteria to be addressed. But we don't do it as a last minute, we do it over a period of time, over a period of year. Standard assessment outcomes are based on the consideration of analysis of evidence. So evidence is the key, analysis of the evidence is based on the foundation of evidence. We need to be analyzing the evidences and then producing results. Are these results sustainable? Are these evidences or the processes that we have sustained? Is it relevant? So that's very, very important. Of course, you know this, we use the ADRI style, wherein we have the approach, deployment, results, and improvement. Approach, I'm skipping through these slides fast. What is relevant, or the statement, why is very important. What we are doing, what are our plans, what are our directions, what is our goals, what is our laws, bylaws, what is the committee structure that you have, what is the terms of reference, directions, all those things come in the approach. And the deployment, what are you doing with those particular things, deployment, straight, process, mechanism, anything that you do, how you're making this particular plan work. So that's your deployment. Now, results, this is again the third part. How do we achieve this particular, what do we achieve out of this deployment? So definitely there is a lot of evidences here in deployment and results. And what we have achieved in the result. And most of the time when we went through the lot of criteria, our approach has been deemed well, our deployments have been good, results are okay, but what happened to these results and how we were able to use these results for the improvement is not clear. So this is where we are lacking. This is the area that we need to improve. Results and improvement. Results we do have, but not all. We do have results. improvement part. How do we achieve? How do we make the results count? Or how do we improve our results? At times we do take a path in the process. The results may not be fair. What are we doing? On the other day, I'll just give you an example of what we have done. I was going through standard 7.1. It is regarding the students planning and management. So I wanted to say how our support services, not only student support, all the support services would lead to the better student experience and academic achievement. So we were looking at how our probation rates have gone down by our mechanisms, how student dropout rates have decreased, how our processes have improved. So when I went through an analysis of the student retention and progression. When I went through the retention and progression, our retention is excellent. It's at 94%. Our progression is about 70% or something. Now, when I went through the actual data in the departments, are we doing good? So that was the question that we have set a lot of standards. We have said that we are doing mechanisms and lot of processes in the department wherein we are focusing on the students who are not doing well. Say, for example, the out of probation students. Now, on an average, the IT department, for example, I'll take it. The students out of probation is at, on an yearly average is stated at 46.42. And the overall college average for the last 7 years, dating from 2013-14 until 2018-19, stays at 37.35. Now, I don't know, our mechanisms. So if you see the average of IT department itself, starting from 2013-14, it was 32.7, 47, 54, 57, 49, 35. So there is a trend of increase during 2015-16 to 2016-17, and then it's going down. So are we saying that the processes and the things that we have set in 2015-16 are not sustainable? Do we have an improvement done on that? Now, have we studied that? So now this is just an example, I just took it. There are many examples which I could cite saying that we are not progressingly high. We are going down like a C curve. We started off head from 2013-14, progressed well, and then 2018-19, it's coming down. So now, for example, in 2013-14, we had 32.74 as the out of probation rate, and now in 2018-19, we are coming back to 35 before we are going to 57. So 32, we went to 57, then we are coming down to 35, and I'm not sure in 1920 what is the trend that's going to show us. So now this is again point to our deployment. So our results, we need to look at our results, and then we need to set up strategies to improve those. So the ADRI cycle is not complete. This is a small process I just took one small process. So now we need to look at how we can improve as a department on improving strategies. I know this department, we are actually setting a lot of strategies and lot of mechanisms in place to make the student to be out of probation or to make the students achieve their academic goals. But still, do we think that is it enough? Because our trend chart doesn't show that. So we need to really work on it. Now let's move on. Now, why have we taken ADRI? There are many tools. ADRI is one of the tools, to be frank. ADRI is just one of the tools. There could be any other tool, but ICT has adopted ADRI to facilitate because it's a structured and systematic. Okay, it shows us the achievements and results don't come by chance. They are achieved through proper processes, wherein the processes are yielding results, wherein the results have an improvement to be taken care of in the next cycle. ADRI can show activities that are supported by systems are sustainable. Now, this is very important key in your processes. Are your systems sustainable? Sustainable is nothing. Over a period of 7 years or 5 years or 3 years down the line, if I have a process that was done in year 1, do we have an improvement in year 2? Or do we have the same process in year 2? Do we have the same process running in year 3, which is an improved one? If we can show that a process is in year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, year 5 going further, then I can say that our systems are sustainable. Now, ADRI can be used at any level, even at your processes in your committees. You can use the same process. You can deploy a process, see if it works. If it doesn't work, go back, write it in the improvement saying that I want to change this. So the committees are the key. The staff are the key. So you make things happen, wherein at the end the reports come. Now, let me just talk about evidences. Evidence can be anything. It could be qualitative or it could be quantitative. We don't mind. The evidences or the evidences produced by a particular activity, it can be qualitative or quantitative, but it should be achieved by a particular process. It cannot come like that. Now, evidences can be used to achieve, for example, the ISAM, when they come, they are going to see the comprehensive picture, and they are also going to see the confidence in the evidence. If they lose confidence in our evidence, whatever we write, whatever we say, we cannot get through. So evidence is the key. So they will take the comprehensive picture from the commentary, but when we come down here to gain confidence, they will go back to your evidence and dig deep. So if the evidences are not clear, and if the evidences are not clean, and if the evidences doesn't come by a process, it just comes by a chance, then we will not be able to sustain, or we will not be able to achieve. Now, what are they going to do? They are going to use saturation. They are going to use a method of triangulation. They are also going to use the process mapping. So saturation, it's a method to explore an issue until no information. That means they are going to go dig deep until there is no more information that comes to light. Triangulation, of course, you are aware of. They are going to strengthen the analysis by triangulation, meeting the staff, meeting the student, meeting the stakeholders, and they are also going to refer to your surveys. There is going to be interviews. Are your surveys speaking what the interviews say? Are your observations going to talk about what your surveys mean? So all these are going to be triangulated at the end to reach this comprehensive picture. Then the process mapping, a method wherein it is depicting the process and the relationships. If you say that and claim that you have a process, are these processes really happening inside the department or in a particular committee? Everything matters. Now, how do we gain confidence? If the evidence is valid, is it reliable, and is it honest, and it's comprehensive? So this is very, very important. It should be valid, it should be reliable, and it should be coming out of honest processes. Now, how do we gain confidence? We don't attribute non-attribution rule. We discourage rehearsing of interviews, random interviews to find out if we really have those evidences, not attributable surveys in student teaching and learning, and surveys and analysis and reviews. So these things will give you better evidences than just creating it. Now, what are the ratings that we have? As we saw, we had ratings from 4 for criteria, which boils down to 0. So 4 criteria is the top one, wherein all your provision and practice are consistently met. So that's very important. That means all your process and all your mechanisms are meeting regularly. That means there is no point of time where your process that you deployed or the method that you deployed has gone wrong, and it has always exceeded what goals you have already set. So you set, say for example, 70%, and every time in the last 7 years, or it has gone through above 70%. So that's what is going to be a criteria rating of 4. Results against this criteria are achieved through deliberate and sustainable things. That means it should be not by chance. It should come by a mechanism or a process. Then the performance is innovative. That means once you achieve a particular goal, you don't stand there or you don't stay there. Have you done anything innovative or indicative of the best practices and gone forward to improve that particular same thing? So that means over a period of 7 years, what are the innovations that you have done after achieving a result? So that will give you the met criteria rating of 4. 3, we are having a mechanism, we have the provision, we have the results, and it's a sustainable results. But our performance is not indicative of a good practice. That's the change. Then we get a 3 rating. See, between that one, that means it's an innovative approach. You keep and you strive hard to get 4. Here, you just achieved it. The performance is a good practice. It is not the best practice. So you have a best practice which is benchmarked and which is internationalized, then you get a 4. Otherwise, your rating is going to be a 3. Otherwise, all are same. You have the plan, you have the mechanism or the processes, you have the results, everything very good, excellent, no problem. But if your performance is indicative of a good practice, not a best practice, then you will only be able to get 3. Now, here also, 2 is same. We have a best practice, we have the mechanisms, we have the plans, we have the process, we have the results, everything achieved, deliberate. But if your performance is only satisfactory, so again I'm going back to your improvements, results, improvements. So that's, if your performance is going to be satisfactory, we will be only able to achieve 2 for a criteria. Then comes the last one, or the dangerous one, partially met. You have the plans, you have the processes, but you don't have results. You don't have results at all, and you don't know how you have achieved these results, and your performance is the least because you don't have a proper accounting of how you achieved your results. You don't have a proper mechanism for improvement. So there is no proper results and there is no proper improvements. So your performance is going to be least satisfactory, which will give you a criteria of 1. This is dangerous again. The last one, last but not the least, we have not met and not applicable. So that means the provision itself, you only have a plan, but it does not meet. You don't have how you are going, what is the plan, what is that you're doing with the plan, how you are getting your things done. You don't have a mechanism, you don't have a processes involved, then you will be getting 0. Some of the criterias, if you know out of the criterias that we have, some of them are not applicable as well. So this is about the criteria that they are. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 and not applicable. Now let's take a criteria writing. Now we have some slides which tells about what should be there and what should not, what is not there, what you would get, or what is the rating that you would get. Now I've taken 6.5 as the criterion. Of course, academic advising. So the criterion statement clearly states that the HEI implements systems and processes for academic advising which provide effective advice. So it needs to provide effective advice and support to students to assist them in achieving their educational goals. So this is the criteria statement. So I don't know, the criteria writers or the evidence collectors who have already broken down this criteria into small parts to make it achievable. Let's take a small example. Now, this is an example for rating 2. Now, rating 2 is satisfactory, correct? or met. Now, the HEI has implemented an effective formal academic system. That means you have a process, you have a plan, and you have a process. Now, which overall supports the students in meeting their educational goals. So that means we are meeting the goals. The system is in the process of being evaluated. That means the system is not being evaluated. And improvement plans have been developed in most departments. That means it's not sustainable. So across the 4 departments or 5 departments that we have, we have a good plan. Excellent. We have an approach. No problem. We do have deployment, that is your methods, mechanisms, and processes that you have. Very good. Now, the system is in the process of being evaluated. That means you are partially evaluating, or you do have forms and you do have feedback mechanisms and satisfaction surveys to identify what is going on. Then, and you don't have an improvement plan. Or maybe some of the departments do have an improvement plan. So how the rating is met is 2, because we do have a system, we do have a process, we do have mechanisms in place, but across the department or across the plan, the ICT, we don't have a sustainable mechanism across all departments where everybody is evaluating the system and you don't have a result. Maybe some of the departments have results, some of the departments are not providing, or some of the departments are not evaluating the results, and some of the departments are not having an improvement plan. So that means we will only be getting a rating of 2. We cannot get a rating of 3. Even if one of the departments say we do have a best mechanism, if engineering or if business or if ELC doesn't have an evaluation system or an improvement plan, still we will go down. So it is not one department which is responsible. It's a collective responsibility of all the departments. So if we set a goal, it should be benchmarked with all the departments, and everybody should say that this is the best practice or it's the good practice. So we to achieve the 3. If it's the best practice, then we would be achieving 4. Now, for partially achieving, that is a rating of 1. Now, HEI has implemented a new institution-wide system for academic advising. So that means we have systems and plans and processes in place, which has replaced the ad hoc faculty-based approaches to academic advising. Very good. While the new system is designed to improve support students, and the students have expressed a high degree of satisfaction with the new panel, with the system to the panel members, it has not yet been evaluated for effectiveness. The HEI's approach to evaluation is clearly specified and will be used for the evaluation of HEI. So that means we do have plans and processes. We have a kind of system, but may not be the system. We have an old system, maybe we are moving to a new system. And that particular system is still not tested and evaluated. And because it's not been tested and evaluated, and we don't have results. And since we don't have results, we don't have an improvement on that. So in that case, we will be partially meeting the requirement. So that means there is a process, there is a mechanism, and there is a plan to identify what is going to happen or how it's going to be evaluated. But we have not evaluated for effectiveness. Then we are going to say that a particular criteria will be partially met with a rating of 1. Then example of not met. So we have a policy. Okay, maybe we have the policy, but what happens after the policy? There is no mechanism, there is no processes, and nobody is monitoring, or no evaluation, no results. Then the rating goes at 0. Some of the criteria is not applicable, like criteria 3.1 and to 3.6. So this is as per the OAAA's guidelines. So there is 4, which is excellence, 3, which is good or met, 2 is again met, 1 is partially met, and 0 is not met. Now, let's take up for 3. To achieve 3, what is to be required? We have strive at least to get 3. As part of the continuous improvement system, the HEI has introduced a revised advising system in response to the feedback. That's the goal. I don't know how many of the feedbacks that we have received, we have analyzed them, and those feedbacks or those results that we have got, are we able to bring it to the approach as a planning mechanism again to change the plan, or to change the approach, or change the mechanism or the processes? We need to reflect on that. There is a comprehensive handbook, excellent. We have a handbook, training for the staff and students, which has been consistently implemented. The system has a positive impact, excellent. But after the feedback, did we do any improvement? So that is the question. That lies the question. That lies a thin line between 2 and 3. So if it's 2, we stop there. So we don't evaluate it and then we don't bring it back to the approach. Now, if we have a clear plan, even if we have a clear plan how it's going to be evaluated and then how it's going to be brought back to the approach to change the processes or the methods, we can still get the rating of 3. Remember, always 2 and 3's maximum will get a better result. Let's go to the standards rating, how we are achieving it for the standard. So these are for the criteria. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So again, so based on the number of criteria that are going to be at a particular met or not met or satisfactorily met, we will be rating the standards, or the OAAA will be rating the standards. So the first one, if at all we need to get satisfactory, no more than 2 criteria are rated 1 and no criteria is rated 0. Let's reflect, ponder and reflect. If we no criteria to be rated 0, so that means all our criteria should have a plan or have an approach, should have a deployment, and we need to have some results, some kind of results, and some kind of way to show how we are going to evaluate the results. So no more than 2 criteria to be rated 1, that is partially met. So 2 criteria is not more than 2 is 1 partially met, and not more than 2 is rated, sorry, no criteria is rated 0. So no zeros and 2 ones will give you a satisfactory for that particular standard. More than half the criteria is at least rated 3, and no more than 2 criteria are rated 1 and no criteria is 0. So that's very important. We get a good more than half criteria. That means all are rated above 3, and 1 criteria if we get 4 in a particular standard, with no criteria being 1 or 0. So there is no partially met and not met here. We get an excellent. More than 2 criteria rated at 1 and 1 or more criteria is rated at 0. We do go for unsatisfactory. So if it is going to be unsatisfactory, we have to go for another accreditation process, or we may have to submit the commentary report or the ISR document again with all necessary changes that we need to make. The criteria for the standard are not applicable to a GIS context. The standard rating will be marked as, so for example, for us, the criteria number 3 will be marked as not applicable. Now let's take some examples. Let's take standard 6, so which has 7 criteria. Now standard 6 is academic support services, wherein we have the planning and management at 6.1, the registry, library, information technology resources, academic advising, this student learning support, and the teaching resources. So for example, if we are going to get the ratings of 2, it's all examples. It's not mandatory that it should be like this. If we get 2, 3, 2, 2, so there is no 1s and no 0s. Now in that case, our criteria or our standard is going to be satisfactory. So there is no 0, no 1. Let's move on. Now here, the standard 5, which is industry and community support engagement. So wherein we have 6 criteria. If one of the criteria is going to be 0, but even if I get 4 and 3s in other criteria, it will again go back to unsatisfactory. So the 0s and 1s play a vital role in each criteria. So again, going back to the criteria, again criteria boils back to the committees, and committees boil back to the staff. So your evidence and your reports needs to be very good. Let's take 8, staff and staff support services. So if we get all 4s and even if there is a 1, then we will get good. So all our 4s, even if 1 is going to change it to good. Okay, again 8, staff and staff support services. These are all examples, possible examples. Now there is no 1s and no 0s, and there are 2s and 3s and 4s only in the criteria. Then we would get excellent for a particular standard. So the 1s and 0s are very important. That is not met and partially met. So not met means there is nothing, there is only a plan or an approach. And for meeting or partially meet, we need to have a plan, we need to have processes, and we need to have results. But the results need to be evaluated. So if you are able to evaluate your results properly, then we will be able to get 2. Even if one of the criteria is not applicable, okay, so but still we are able to get 2s here, so it just becomes satisfactory. Now all the standards are rated satisfactory, we will be accredited. So if you see all the standards 1, 2 and 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, if they are all marked as satisfactory, then we will be able to get accreditation. Now all the standards are at least satisfactory, and any standard which is excellent, one standard if it is excellent, or any standard which is rated as good, then we may get an accreditation with distinction. Now the last 3, 1 or 2 standards are rated unsatisfactory. That means we have 1s and 0s in that. Then we will get only conditionally accredited. Okay, wherein within the period of 6 months time, we will have to face, or we will have to submit the document again for other accreditation. If more than 2 standards are unsatisfactory, more than 2, that is 3, 4, 5, then we will be on probation, and then we will be given a time of 1 year to work on it, and then they will come for assessing it us again. 1 or more standard is rated unsatisfactory, so that means we are not going to be accredited at all. Okay, so these 3 are the red lines here: conditional accreditation, on probation, and not accreditation. Let's take some examples. Say for example, I have standard 1, which is satisfactory. All the standards are satisfactory. That means, as I said, we are going to get an accreditation. So that means if I say satisfactory, there is not going to be 1s and 0s. Let's take this example. I have satisfactory in some, I have excellent, I have unsatisfactory in one criteria, on one standard, because the criteria had some 0s or 1s. So you're going to be conditionally accredited because your criteria failed to address certain things. So your criteria failed, that boils down to your committees failed at some point of time. And the committees, again, it boils down to the processes and systems that are in place in the department. Let's take another example. I have excellent, I have satisfactory, I have good and everything. So now this is going to be accreditation with distinction, because standard 2 is excellent and we have got 2 goods in standard 7 and 9. Oh, sorry, 3 goods, 4, 7 and 9. Then we will be able to get accreditation with a distinction. This is the same slide. Any questions?
Sir, can you show the previous slide? One more time.
This one?
One second. Yes. Here you're saying 1, 2, 3. The third one. One or two standards are rated unsatisfactory.
Yes.
Again, the same standards is coming here. Yeah. One or more standards are rated unsatisfactory. What is the difference between these two? Conditionally accredited and not accredited.
No. See, not accredited means you're already, your standards, that the document that you are provided based on the institutional standards reassessment. That means based on our reassessment. Okay.
Yes.
That means they come for a reassessment over a period of after 6 months or maybe after the period of probation. Okay. So that is 6 months down the line, you are conditionally accredited. So you will be given 6 months time before which you to set trends and everything straight. So that is your conditional accreditation. Now, if you are on probation, you will be given 1 year time. So within this 1 year time, you need to come back and set your things right, and you need to provide all that are necessary for the OAAA for the accreditation. Now, still, if you are able not to achieve over a period of the next 1 year after the OAAA visit, you will be not accredited.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Mr. Robin, good morning.
Good morning, dear.
Hello.
Tell me.
Yeah. Actually, I just want to ask something. Why is that we are changing the this one? You know, all the evidences now. Because you know the original evidences are there already. Whatever we did over the years are there. And now all of a sudden people are asking us to change the evidence. Why should we have to change the? Is it not considered as you know, twisting with the actual thing?
Now we have asked them to make the evidences better, because what they have done is some of the evidences that they have put in place, okay, are not clear when they are scanned, or maybe in due course there are without signatures. So those evidences we have asked them to reproduce, because we cannot place that document as an evidence, because an evidence, when we are showing, it should be a proper one. That's only that could be the only reason that we are looking at evidences to be recreated or maybe reproduced. Because when we went through the evidences, many of the evidences were not clear. They have taken scanned, but maybe only the top part is visible. There is nothing in the signature part which is visible. Or some of them have done it like in triangle, some of them have done it in square, some of them have done it upside down, but still they have kept the evidences. So when we are now digging deep into the evidences, we could find that these evidences may not be good enough to show to a panel.
No, Robin, what he's asking is they're changing the list of the evidences. Now, yesterday we had a meeting with Dr. Muhammad. 3 more evidence are being added by Dean after 3 or 4 years here. So how to produce that document from 13, 14 onwards? That is the problem. Now, the list should be prepared at least 3 years. Now we are changing the list. Not the quality of the document.
Now the problem is
the list.
Yes, I understand what you are telling, Tariq. Now the list changes because when the criteria writer is writing the particular report based on what has been given in the ISAM manual, okay, because we are supposed to complete a particular report based on the standards given in the ISAM manual. When we are writing the report, what is happening is at times when we want to show that this particular portion of your criteria or your standard, I want to write something on that, we don't find an evidence which we can relate to that particular writing. So then when we started digging, the process has been in place at times. There has been processes, but there were no evidences kept at that particular point of time. You got what I'm saying, Tariq?
No. For this, what we would have done is we should have done the bottom-up approach. We should have written the portfolio first, then we could have come to evidences. We are doing the other way around.
But Tariq, it's actually, yeah, I understood. You're right. But see, it could be even when we write a criteria, okay, for example, I'm writing the criteria. If I'm not aware on what are the processes that are happening in a particular department or in a particular activity, how do I write a commentary? So that's again goes, it's between you, it's like a chicken and an egg. So which comes first? So even if I had written a commentary.
See, if some of the evidences we are finding out now, why we have to go for 5 years? We can only show, okay, 1, 2, 3 years we started this thing. We can put in the improvement always. Why we have to produce something which is not there? It's wrong. 13, 14 document we did not do. Why we are telling we did and we are producing the wrong documents or the fake documents?
Okay,
There are lots of fake documents which is being made. Yeah.
Okay. Now, was the process there or not? Was the plan there or not? Now, you are saying that you are producing a document, reproducing a document, right? An evidence is an output of a particular process or a mechanism or a plan. Right?
Yeah.
See, the evidence that we are creating is actually, it's output of a mechanism, output of a plan, output of a process. Now, if we don't have the process at all, or if you did not have the plan at all, then I believe creating that evidence is fake. Okay. Now, if you did have a system and if you have a process in place, which should have produced a report, and that
that I understand. Yeah, that I understand. If we have the system, if we don't have the system, we are asked to do the thing which is not there. For example, I'll give you example. Yesterday example. External review we started on 15, on 16 onward. We cannot produce 13, 14, 14, 15 documents. And on the assessment yesterday, the 3 more documents are being asked from us from 13, 14, which we are not doing. I mean, then it cannot be asked from us, okay, why you did not do? We are not doing that.
You mean you did not have the process at all?
No, we were not doing external moderation. From 15, 16 onwards, we did. Who is this?
1 minute. Sorry, guys. Got it. Visitor. Yeah, Tariq, go ahead.
It will take long, man. We'll discuss later.
Okay. I will discuss. See, I understand what you are trying to say, Tariq. Let me speak to Gardner, and then I will come back to you on this. Because I too got somebody else telling me the same thing. So I will get back to you. But if you have the processes, and if you have the methods, and if you have the plan, there is no way that we cannot say that we do not have an evidence. There should be evidence. It should be either recreated or it should be found out. But I agree with you, Tariq. If there is no system, no process at all, then I think we should be not recreating it. Rather, we should say it as an improvement. That I am.
That is clear. That is clear. If we don't have anything, how we can produce? That is my question.
I will discuss with Gardner. No problem.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Sir, one simple question regarding this.
Yep.
2013-14 Industrial Link Committee Action Plan. Suppose we didn't mention any community activities. Okay. We didn't mention any community activities. Okay. And suppose now they are asking IT department of ILC department of IT department, ILC committee of IT department didn't give as the document in 13-14 community activities. My question: do we need to produce any report for that since we didn't conduct any?
I'll come back to you now. Did in your ILC?
Yep.
Did you have in your action plan or in your terms of reference? Did you say that you are going to do community program, or any document in your criteria, which or in your terms of reference or in your, did you speak about community engagement program? If you have spoken about it, then you need to you don't need to reproduce it. Maybe you should say that I have not done this particular process in that particular academic year, and that should be shown as an improvement if you have started doing in the subsequent years. But if it is not at all there, then I don't think so we need to produce the document as such.
Yeah.
But if it is there in your terms of reference, and if it is there in the department action plan saying that we are going to do it, and if you have not done it, then definitely there should be a justification, and the 2013-14 saying that we have not done this particular processes because of X reasons, and then it should be brought as an improvement in the 2014-15 plan.
Okay. Done, sir. Thank you.
Robin sir, thank you for making us this awareness session related to the purpose of ISA, different stages, its features, and ISA stages and all. Thank you, sir, for giving ADRI, how the criterion are rating and standard rating for everything, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
See once again on 30th June, sir. One more session is there. We are expecting for that session, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Nice speaking to you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Welcome. Bye.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.